Let us continue with the interpretation of NMR signals. The next compound CH3, CHCl, CH3. See here, this CH3, it is near to this CHCl, isn't it? And also while considering this CH3, it is also nearby the CHCl. So both of these CH3 groups will be having the same environment, isn't it? This both CH3 groups, it is nearby the CHCl. So we can say that these two CH3 groups are at the same environment. So we can mark it as they are the same type of proton. Sorry, A. This is also A. Okay, both are the same type of proton. So they are at the same environment, so A and A. Then coming to this proton, it will be having an entirely different environment, so it is marked as B. So two types of protons are there, A and B. So therefore we can say that it will be having two NMR signals. Okay. Then the next one, the third one, that is CH3, CH2, CH2, Cl. See here, this CH3, it is neighboring to the CH2 group, isn't it? So it is one type of proton. Then this CH2, it is nearby CH3 and CH2, so it is another type of proton. Then this CH2, it is neighboring with that of CH2 and a Cl, another different environment, isn't it? So both these three protons, they are at different environments. So three different types of protons are there, A, B and C. Therefore how many NMR signals? 3 NMR signals are there. Okay, so this is how you have to determine the signals, or you have from the number of signals we can locate the number of types of protons. Okay, this is the first case, interpretation of NMR spectra, that is number of signals. Then coming to the next one, that is the position of signals or chemical shift. Number 2, position of signals. Position of signals, or we can say it as chemical shift. Position of signals or chemical shift. See here, this position of an NMR signal, it is determined by the electronic environment of the particular proton. Electronic environment of the proton. Position of the signals, it is determined by the electronic environment of the proton. And also this chemical shift, we can define chemical shift as the number of, chemical shift, it is denoted by the letter delta. Okay, so chemical shift, we can define it like this. It is the separation in the position of the signals separation in the position of the signal of the different types of protons from that of a standard. So this is the definition for this chemical shift, delta. So delta, it is defined as the separation in the position of the signals of the different type of protons from that of the standard. And also I'll be writing the formula for calculating it. So delta is equal to H sample minus H reference, H sample minus H reference divided by H reference into 10 raised to 6. Delta is equal to H sample minus H reference divided by H reference into 10 raised to 6. See here, H sample and H reference means they are the frequency of the sample, or we can write it like this. See, frequency of the sample minus frequency of the reference divided by frequency of the reference into 10 raised to 6. Normally this 10 raised to 6, it is a number multiplied with this term in order to have a convenient value. Okay, so that we will be having some integral values, otherwise it will be in decimal. Okay, so that is why we are multiplying it with 10 raised to 6. And also this delta for the reference, here one term is their reference, isn't it? Frequency of the reference. See, for reference we are using tetramethylsilane. For reference we are using tetramethylsilane. It is denoted as TMS, tetramethylsilane, MS. Tetramethylsilane is used as the reference. The formula for this tetramethylsilane, it is like this: Si surrounded by 4 CH3 groups. This is the formula of tetramethylsilane. See, all the methyl groups are at the same environment, isn't it? See how many protons are there? 3 plus 3 6 plus 3 9 plus 3 12. So total 12 protons are there, and all these 12 protons, they are equivalent. That means they are in the same environment, isn't it? They are having 12 equivalent protons. This TMS are having 12 equivalent protons. All these protons are in the same environment, isn't it? While considering the CH3, it is nearby the Si. This CH3 also near to Si. This CH3 also near to Si. This CH3 also near to Si. So total 12 protons are there, and all these are 12 equivalent protons. Okay, so as a result of this 12 equivalent protons, it will give rise to a very clear signal, or a well-defined signal. Well-defined signal. Okay. And also, normally this chemical shift, it is 2 scales are used for measuring this chemical shift. That is a tau scale, TAU, tau scale, and a delta scale. Tau scale and a delta scale. And also some corrections are there in your textbook, you have to correct it. So there is a relation connecting this tau and delta. Tau is equal to 10 minus delta. Tau is equal to 10 minus delta, and here this tetramethylsilane is used as the reference, isn't it? I had already told you. And these 2 scales are used for measuring the chemical shift, and in delta scale the TMS value will be equal to 0. TMS for the delta value for TMS, it will be equal to 0, and from this the numbering, it will be like this: 0, then okay. So this is in the delta scale, and in delta scale the TMS will be used as the reference, and the for TMS delta value will be equal to 0. Okay. And for a tau scale, just in the reverse way. Okay. In the tau scale, for TMS, the tau value will be equal to 10. Okay. So here it will be 10, then 9. Okay, so this is in the tau scale. For TMS, for the TMS, tau is equal to 10, and for delta scale, for the TMS, the reference compound, TMS, it is having value 0. Okay, so I think in the textbooks there is some confusion, and also these in all these cases the values will be ranging between 0 and 10. Okay, so the relation connecting the 2 scales, that is tau is equal to 10 minus delta. Then coming to the shielding and de-shielding. So this also very important. Then coming to the shielding and de-shielding. See, when this the chemical shift, or the shifting positions, or the separation in the positions of a particular signal, it is due to the screening effect of the electrons. The chemical shift is due to the screening effect of electrons. See, what happens is that when a molecule, when it is placed in a magnetic field, what happens? There are electrons present in that particular molecule, and the electrons will be circulating, isn't it? The electrons already, they are in motion. When placed in a magnetic field, what happens? The electrons will be circulating, and this circular motion of the electrons, what happens? it produces a magnetic field, isn't it? So already a magnetic field is applied, and along with that, while this electron is revolving around the nucleus, it will be generating another magnetic field also. And what happens is that if the induced magnetic field is in the opposite direction of the applied magnetic field, okay, if the induced magnetic field means the field generated by the circular motion of the electron, isn't it? That is the induced magnetic field. And if it is opposite to that of the applied magnetic field, and if that is opposite to that of the applied magnetic field, then what happens? The proton will be experiencing, or the proton will be having a diminished magnetic field. Both are in the opposite direction, isn't it? So the protons will be having a diminished magnetic field, and therefore we can say that the proton is said to be shielded. The proton is said to be shielded. So while the electrons are revolving around the nucleus, when we are applying a magnetic field, then the electrons, as a result of the circular motion, it will be developing a magnetic field. And if the induced magnetic field, if it is in the opposite direction of the applied magnetic field, there will be a diminished magnetic field experienced by the proton, and therefore we can say that the proton is said to be shielded. Just the opposite case is the deshielding of a proton. And in the case, so here what happens? A diminished magnetic field means the proton is shielded. Therefore, a proton requires a stronger magnetic field to have an NMR signal. So a stronger magnetic field is necessary to give an NMR signal. A stronger magnetic field is necessary to give an NMR signal. Okay, so that is the first case. Then coming to the second case, we can say that if the induced magnetic field, if it is in the direction same to that of the applied magnetic field, or if it reinforces the applied magnetic field, if the induced magnetic field reinforces the applied magnetic field, what happens? The protons are said to be deshielded. The protons are said to be deshielded, and therefore the proton requires only a smaller magnetic field to have an NMR signal. The proton requires a smaller magnetic field to give an NMR signal. So, and therefore it is said to absorb downfield. It absorbs in the downfield, and here in the first case, if the proton requires a stronger magnetic field to give an NMR signal, that means it absorbs upfield. It absorbs upfield. Okay. So these are the two conditions, shielding and deshielding. So this is about the chemical shift of this. Then the third one, that is the peak area and peak counting. Peak area and peak counting. See, the area of a peak, that means this particular area, the area of the peak, it will be proportional to the number of protons present. The area will be proportional to the number of protons giving rise to that signal. Okay. See here in the case of methanol CH3OH, how many types of protons are there? This is one type of proton A, this is another type of proton B. So how many NMR signals? 2 NMR signals. And what about the ratio? See here in the case of A, how many protons are there? 3. So it will be in the ratio 3:2. Here for B, it will be in the ratio 1. 1 proton is there. Okay. And then coming to the next one, CH3, CH2, CH2OH. How many protons are there? This is one type of proton, another type, then the third type, and the fourth type of proton, D. Okay. And what about the NMR signals? How many NMR signals are there? 4 NMR signals, because 4 types of protons are present. Therefore, what about the area? It will be in this ratio. That is, A will be having how many protons? 4. So the ratio of A is to B is to C is to D. That is equal to A will be having 3 protons, B will be having 2 protons, C will be having 2 protons and D will be having 1 proton. So the area will be in this ratio 3:2:2:1. Okay. Then in the case of ethyl alcohol CH3, CH2, OH, we had already written how many types of protons are there, A, B and C. So 3 NMR signals, since 3 types of protons are there. And what about the ratio A is to B is to C is equal to, A will be having 3 proton, then B will be having 2 proton and OH will be having 1 proton. So the ratio will be 3:2:1. You just count the number of protons and then you can write the ratio. Okay. So this is about the peak area and peak, sorry, not peak counting, it is proton counting. Peak area and proton counting. Peak area and proton counting. Then the fourth one, that is the splitting of signals, that is the spin-spin coupling. This is also very important. Spin-spin coupling. Spin-spin coupling means here we will be having the fine structure of NMR. Spin-spin coupling means it is the splitting of signals. Splitting of signals. So see here in the case of ethyl alcohol CH3, CH2, OH. See how many NMR signals are there? Protons, 3 types of protons. Therefore 3 NMR signals are present. Okay, 3 NMR signals are present, and therefore see normally under low resolution we will be having 3 NMR signals, and at high resolution what happens is that these peaks will again be splitted up. Okay, through a high resolution we will be having the signals will be further splitted up. That means they will be showing multiplicity. Multiplicity means they will be split into several signals. Again splitting takes place. Okay, they will be splitting into several signals. They will be splitting into several signals. That is what is called as multiplicity. So by using a high resolution we will be having the multiplicity or splitting of one signal into 2 or 3 or 4. It will be like this. Okay, so that is what is called as multiplicity, and this splitting of the signals, it is due to the spin-spin coupling. The splitting of the signals, it is due to spin-spin coupling. See, consider the case of this CH3, CH2, OH. See here, this under low resolution we will be having 1 peak for each, isn't it? For CH3 1 peak, for CH2 1 peak, and for OH 1 peak. But in the case of a high resolution, what happens is that this CH3 will split into 3. That means this CH3 group, it is near to this CH2 group, isn't it? So the splitting will be depending upon the neighboring protons. So or the splitting will be depending upon the number of protons at the adjacent atom. So the CH3 group, it is neighboring to the CH2 group, and the CH2 group will be having 2 protons. So the multiplicity will be given by the formula n+1, where n is the number of protons on the adjacent atoms. N is the number of protons on the adjacent atom. Okay, so while considering the splitting of the CH3 signal, it will be depending on the number of protons on this particular carbon atom. So the neighboring carbon atom will be having 2 protons. Therefore, what about the multiplicity of this methyl group or this methyl group? It will be splitting into n+1 peaks. So here n is equal to 2, isn't it? N is equal to 2, so it will be 2+1. That means it will be, the CH3 group will be having 3 peaks. Okay, this particular CH3 group will be having 3 peaks. 3 peaks means we can write it as a triplet. Okay, so for CH3 group, it will depends upon the number of protons present on the adjacent carbon atoms. So this is the adjacent carbon atom, or this is the methylene group, and it is having 2 protons. Therefore n+1, that is 2+1, that is equal to 3 peaks. So that is a triplet. So for the CH3, through a high resolution we will be having a triplet. Similarly, we can write the case of the CH2 group. Okay, so CH2 group means see how many adjacent protons are there. You can neglect this OH group. Okay, so this CH2 group, it is neighboring to this particular carbon atom, and this carbon atom, it is having 3 protons. So 3 protons means n plus 1. So here n is equal to 3. That means it will be equal to 3 plus 1, 4 peaks. Okay, you have to consider this particular CH3 group. So this CH2 is nearby this CH3 group. So n plus 1, that means the CH2 group will be having 4 peaks. 4 peaks means we can write it as a quartet. The signal will be a quartet. That means 4 peaks will be there. And also in the case of the last one, that is in the case of OH group, what happens is that this in the case of OH, there will not be any further splitting takes place, because this OH will be usually having some rapid chemical exchange with other molecules. Therefore, normally in this case, OH will be having only 1 peak. Okay. 1 peak means it will be a singlet. Okay, so let us draw this NMR signal for this CH3, CH2, OH. Okay, so first of all, CH3 group, how many peaks? 3 peaks are there for CH3, that is, it will be like this. For CH3, this is a triplet. Then comes CH2. For CH2, it is a quartet. That means 4 peaks are there. So it will be like this. For CH2, then for OH, it is a single signal or a singlet. This is for OH. So this is the high resolution NMR for CH3, CH2, OH. For CH3, it will be having 3 peaks. For CH2, it will be having 4 peaks. And for OH, it will be having a singlet. Okay. So this is one case. Then we can move on to another one. CH3, CH2, CH2Br, another molecule. Okay, see how many types of protons. This is one type A, another type B, this is another type C. So through a low resolution, we will be having 3 NMR signals, since 3 different types of protons are there. And also, see here, considering the case of the first one, CH3, it is while considering the case of the neighboring atom, it will be having 2 protons. So what about the resolution? Under high resolution means A will be giving a triplet, isn't it? Since it will be, we can use this formula n plus 1. Here n is equal to 2, isn't it? So 2 plus 1, that is equal to 3. N is the number of protons present in the adjacent atom. So for CH3, we will be having a triplet. For CH3, we will be having a triplet. Then consider the case of CH2. See this CH2, this is surrounded by a CH3 as well as a CH2 group, isn't it? Surrounded by a CH3 and a CH2 group. So we have to consider both these atoms or both these protons. So here we have to apply this formula, that is Na plus 1 into Nb plus 1. Where A and B are the protons of the first carbon atom and the third carbon atom. Okay, so here Na will be equal to, what is Na? Na will be the number of protons present in this CH3. What is it? Na will be 3. And what about Nb? Nb will be equal to 2. Okay, so this will be equal to 3 plus 1 into 2 plus 1. 3 plus 1 into 2 plus 1, that is 4 into 3, that is equal to 12 protons are there. So, 12 peaks are there for this particular CH2 group. So this is how you have to interpret in the case of a carbon atom having different environments. Okay, so you have to count the number of protons in each of the neighboring atoms and then use this, apply this formula Na plus 1 into Nb plus 1, where Na and Nb are the neighboring protons. Okay, so then you have to consider the third category, that is for the last CH2. For CH2 again, how many adjacent protons are there? Only 2. So we can apply again the formula n plus 1, that is equal to 2 plus 1, that is equal to 3. So again 3 peaks. So this is how you have to write the NMR. Okay. And also see here you have seen some line spacing, isn't it? So this separation of the separation or the spacing between the lines of a multiplet. So this is a multiplet or this is a quartet. There is a line spacing between each of these peaks, isn't it? So this line spacing we can call it as the spin-spin coupling constant. Okay, this line spacing, it is called as the spin-spin coupling constant, and this the spin-spin coupling constant, and it is denoted by the letter J, and this J will be decreasing with the distance between the coupling groups. Okay, so the spin-spin coupling constant, that term also you have to study, spin-spin coupling constant, spin-spin coupling constant J. And this J value decreases with decrease in the distance of the coupling groups. Decreases with decrease in the distance of the coupling groups. So J is the line spacing. It is simply the line spacing. Just you have seen in the rotational spectroscopy, etc. There B is the rotational constant, isn't it? And also there is a line spacing, isn't it? There you have studied the line spacing, a formula also there. Here also the line spacing, we can represent it by the term J. This is a spin-spin coupling constant. So this is about the interpretation of NMR. So you have to study all these points, these 4 points. The first one, how to interpret NMR spectra. The first one, that is the number of signals. The second one, position of the signals. Third one, the peak area and proton counting. And the fourth one, the spin-spin coupling. All these 4 points you have to study. Then the last one, that is regarding the applications of NMR spectroscopy. Applications of NMR spectroscopy. So here this NMR spectroscopy is used to detect the presence of some functional groups. That is, by counting the number of hydrogen atoms, we can interpret the functional group present in that particular compound. Then the second one, it is used to detect the hydrogen bonds. Then the third one, used in the structural analysis. That is, in the structural elucidation of organic compounds, this NMR, it is widely used. Then the fourth one, it is used to determine the number of nuclei present in a group, and also the positions of the multiplicities, that is the J values we can calculate. The multiplicities can also be determined by using the NMR spectra. Then the fifth point is that it is used to study ketoenol tautomerism. Used to study in ketoenol tautomerism. And then the last one, it is used in determining the rate constant. Rate constant you have studied. So it is used in determining the rate constant K. So these are the applications of NMR. So this also you have to study. Okay. So this much is about NMR spectroscopy. Thank you.